Welcome everybody. We are getting ready to take section 4.2 notes today. So I'll need you to get your spiral notebook out and flip on over to Unit 4 Table of Contents. Once you're on your table of contents, here is the lesson number and title, 4.2. Writing equations in point slope form. And we're going to put that on page 30. So again, writing equations in point slope form. And we're going to tape it down onto page 30. The other day, we had done slope-intercept form, which was y equals mx plus b. Today, I'm going to show you a different formula. It's really simple to use. We're going to focus on where the numbers come from, and it's really not bad. So after you get that written down, we'll need to pause the video to give you guys some time to get this taped down. So I'll need somebody to pass out the set of notes. They look like this. And then get this tape down, and when everybody's ready, you'll push play. Everybody should have it taped down now onto page 30, and we should be ready to go. Today we're going to be talking about point slope form. It is just a different type of formula that we can use to describe linear functions, and we use it basically when we do not have the y-intercept. So I've got this example that we're going to work through, and then I'm going to show you the formula, and then we're just going to start some practice problems. So for this check it out example I've got up here, it says for the graph, find the y-intercept of the line that has the given slope and passes through the given point, and then write the equation. So this whole little experiment is to make sure that you understand if you have one single point and a slope, you can graph the line. You can figure out what that line looks like and therefore get the y-intercept and all of the other key features that are out there. So let's go ahead and finish out this line and see where it ends up. Here's that 1 point that we have, and our slope is a -2. Now, you need to remember M is slope, and it's also rise over run. So this -2 is over an understood 1, which means from this dot right here, I'm going to move down to right 1, down to right 1, down to right 1, down to right 1. And I continued until I got to the y-axis because that was what it asked me for. Up here it says find the y-intercept, and it's going to be right there. I'll sketch out this line. Do your best to make it look like a straight line. Now, I've got my M, which is slope. Now, I've got to go get the B value, which is my y-intercept. That is where the line crosses the y-axis. So here's your y-axis. It crosses down here at -2. Now, last class, we really focused on slope-intercept form, which was y equals mx plus b. Since we have a slope and a y-intercept, we can use that equation, that formula. So we have y equals -2x minus 2. And there is the equation. So we've done both things that they've asked us to do. We found the y-intercept, it was -2, and we have written the equation, which was that last statement right there. Now, we did this example so that you can see, even if you do not know the y-intercept off the beginning of the word problem, you can still figure out where it crosses the y-axis and then therefore write the slope-intercept form. Now, let's look at point slope form. So right here it says we can write an equation of a line if we are given the point on a line and the slope of the line using point slope form. So here it is. It's a formula. Please do not stress about having it memorized. Instead, I would rather you learn and make sure that you can remember for any tests where these numbers come from, these letters, because there's going to be numbers there, where they come from and how they change our equation. So this M is going to be our slope. We know how to find slope. And then this x1, y1 comes from the ordered pair. You will always be given that ordered pair. And then right here at the bottom of our notes box there, I want you to put a star by this one. It says, oftentimes we have to convert the equation to slope-intercept form. So a lot of the time, we're going to have to take it from this, which is point slope, to slope-intercept, which is our y equals mx plus b. Because when we talk about linear graphs, it's typically in terms of slope-intercept form, so it looks like y equals mx plus b. Now, let's take a look at this first example problem that I've got here. It says write an equation in point slope form of a line that passes through the point -8, 3 and has a slope of 1/4. Now, what I have told all of my students, anytime you are given an ordered pair and a slope, you need to label, so that way you know where the stuff goes whenever we go to actually use point slope form. Here's what I mean when I say label. This is an ordered pair, and so this is your x coordinate, so x1, this is your y coordinate, so we call that y1. The ones are there because this is just the first order pair that we were given. So we have x1, y1, and then slope, that's the m. M always represents slope, so anytime you have slope, that's just always m. Now, I'm going to take this point slope formula, and I'm going to take these numbers and simply plug them in where they go. Here's what it looks like. Y minus, I need a y1, which right here is a 3, equals, now we're on the m part, 1/4 times x minus, and then x1 is -8. So it looks like this. Now, before we call it quits, because this is point slope form, that's all that was required. There is one thing that we need to clean up because in math, we don't really keep it there. If it ever happens, we try to simplify that and get rid of it. And it's this little situation right here. When you have minus and negative, that's two negatives and they make a positive. So let's rewrite this to clean that up a little bit. Y minus 3 equals 1/4 times x plus 8. This is our equation written in point slope form, which is what it asked us for. Now, I will say this, the majority of the time, the questions that we encounter are going to ask you for the slope-intercept form, which is not this. It's easy to convert this into slope-intercept form, which is what we're going to take a look at on the inside. All right, now we're on the inside. This information box up here says when you are given 2 points on a line, you can write an equation of that line using the following steps. So this is using point slope formula. Now, I do want to say before we write anything down, you use point slope formula when you do not have the y-intercept. If you have the y-intercept, then you need to use y equals mx plus b, which is the slope-intercept formula. This one is the one that we use when we do not know what the y-intercept is. If you ever experience that situation, which I will say 95% of the time it looks like this one, this is the one that we're going to do in just a second, 99% of the time it looks like this. Now, step number 1 says to find the slope of the line, and you need to remember that there is a slope formula. That's step 1. That is also typically the most challenging step for Algebra 1 students. Once you get past the slope, it's easy sailing from there. So when you have the slope, step 2 says to use that slope and one of the points and plug it into point slope form. So again, we're going to find the slope, take that slope in an ordered pair and plug it into point slope formula. And then step number 3 is to convert that equation into slope-intercept form. Step number 3 is where we really need to make sure that we're proficient at, because that we're going to have to use that skill several times. All right, so let's look at 2 of these examples. Number 2, It says write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line shown. So now here's the thing. This graph is not a bad graph at all, and you could really easily figure out what that y-intercept is just by extending this graph just a little bit. You would easily be able to figure it out. But we're going to act like that's not the case. These are the two ordered pairs that I was given, and now I'm going to do my 3 steps here, and I'm going to end up with a slope-intercept form of what this equation is. So here we go. Step number 1 was to find the slope. Since this is a graph, I can do the little rise over run triangle. I don't have to worry about any formula. The rise over run triangle is how do you move on the graph to get from one dot to the other. You always read a graph from left to right, so we need to start on the left. I need to move down, and then I need to move to the right. So my slope is down 4 and right 2. And this is my little slope triangle that I did. Because I moved down, that's how it ended up being negative, and then I moved 2 to the right. And then -4 divided by 2 is just -2. So this is my slope. I will need slope. That's the hardest part about any of these problems, is finding out the slope. Step number 2 says use the slope and one of the ordered pairs and plug it into point slope formula. So this is my m value. These are the 2 ordered pairs that I have just conveniently given to me. My advice on this is to pick the one that you think would be the easiest one. That's typically one with smaller numbers, maybe positive numbers. And so here's what I'm going to do. We're going to use the ordered pair 1, 2. And I'm going to go ahead and label that ordered pair as x1, y1. Because now I have to take, step number 2 says take the slope and your ordered pair and plug it into point slope formula. Here's that formula, so that way you're not having to flip back and forth to the front. All I'm going to do right now is take these numbers and plug them into their correct spots. So I have y minus 2, because that was my y1, equals -2, that was my slope, x minus, and then x1 is a 1. That is step 2, is just plugging it in to point slope form. Step 3 now says to convert the equation into slope intercept form. This is the one that's really important because we got to make sure that we can manipulate equations. And so here's how that works out. So I'm going to cover this side up because we no longer need this side anymore. This is my point slope formula. I need to make it into slope intercept form. It's real easy. And I want you to think about, if you normally see parentheses, we're distributing to get rid of those. So that's what we're going to do. Going to distribute. And I have y minus 2 is equal to -2 times x, -2x, and -2 times -1 is a +2. And notice on this side, this is trying to become the mx plus b part already. You can kind of see it. So now I just need this side to be y equals by itself. In order to do that, I'm just going to +2, +2. Now, I decided to write it underneath this 2 right here because those are like terms. I could not put it under this one because it didn't have an x on it. And so here is slope-intercept form. Y equals -2x plus 4. So this is using point slope form, converting it into slope-intercept. Now again, I cannot stress it enough. You would only use point slope form if you were given 2 points, like number 3, and you did not have the y-intercept. If you have the y-intercept, then you immediately go here and you're fine. But if you do not have the y-intercept, you've got to use point slope form. All right, let's try one more together before I let you try some on your own. So we're going to look at number 3. Number 3 is what they typically look like if they show up on an Algebra 1 test. And so it says, write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the given points. And so we have 2 points here. Following those steps up there at the top, it says, step 1 said to find slope. So I need to find the slope of these 2 points right here. Now, here's what you need to remember. Slope, which is m, is the change in y over the change in x. There is a formula. So for my formula loving people, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, I've tried to show several classes some tricks about this because when I do slope, I do not use this formula. I think about the change that's happening between the numbers because that works better for my brain and I'm faster that way. But the formula is really handy. Remember, you do not have to have it memorized, but you do need to know where these numbers actually come from. And we're going to be able to tell that if we label them out. So let's go ahead and label them. These are the two ordered pairs that I have. I'm going to label this one x1, y1 because it's the first ordered pair. This one I'm going to call x2, y2 because it's the second ordered pair. Now remember, step 1 up there at the top said to find the slope. So I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to plug them into my fraction right here in order to find slope. So we have m equals, and I'm going to color code them for you. We have y2, which is 10, minus y1, which is 4. So 10 minus 4, which we know is 6. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify that. That's 6. And then the bottom of our fraction, the denominator, is going to be x2, 3, minus x1, which is 1. So it's 3 minus 1, which simplifies to a 2. And so now my slope is just 6 over 2, which simplifies to be a 3. That's step 1, is to find the slope. So I want you to make sure that you take enough time on the slope that you don't accidentally miss a sign or get the numbers backwards, because if you do that, the whole problem will be a little bit off. Now, if you look back up there at step 2, up there at the top, it says to take that slope and a point and use point slope formula. So here is our formula again. Get rid of that one. Here's our point slope formula. Now, we have conveniently already labeled this one as x1, y1, so we're just going to go ahead and use that one. But you could also use this one and it would still work out the same. I'm just going to choose this one because it's smaller numbers. So we have y minus 4 equals 3 for the m, and then x minus 1 on the inside. So there's point slope. All I did was plug in the correct numbers in the correct spots. Don't overthink step 2. And finally, step 3 is to convert this point slope form into slope intercept form. It's 2 steps, and it's the same 2 steps every time. So we're going to distribute. We end up with y minus 4 equals 3x minus 3. Because when you distribute, that's the result. And then lastly, I need to get this y by itself, so I'm going to do the inverse here and add 4. And so my slope-intercept form is y equals 3x plus 1. Point slope is nice because you can figure out what the equation of the line is without looking at a graph at all. All right, so here's what I'd like you to do. Everybody's hopefully caught up. Over here on the right, I want you guys to look at number 1, that very top one. It says write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the points 7, 2, and 2, 12. Now, I would like you to do this individually. So we're going to pause the video here in a second and give you, we'll say 4 minutes. I'm going to give you 4 minutes to work that problem out, and then after the 4 minutes we'll press play and you can see what the correct answer is. Now I will tell you this is my one hint, and then we're going to pause this video. This top one right here is identical to this one and how it worked out, so you need to make sure that you use number 3 as a guide to kind of help you work through our first practice problem over here. All right, so at this time, let's go ahead and pause the video. You've got 4 minutes. All right. It's been 4 minutes. I did not work the problem out all of the way because I wanted to make sure that we had talked about the conversion from point slope to slope intercept one more time. So here's what I did first. I labeled out my two ordered pairs that I was given, x1, y1, x2, y2. Then I simply used the slope formula and I plugged my numbers into where they were supposed to be. I got 10 divided by -5, which was -2. And then from there, I took my slope and my first order pair that I had, and all I did was substitute it into the point slope formula. So that's where this come from. Now it asked me for the equation in slope intercept form. That's the first thing that we had underlined up there. And so I need to take this and convert it to slope intercept form. So first thing we got to do is get rid of those parentheses. So I'm going to distribute. The biggest mistake that I see on this one is that people do not distribute a -2. You need to make sure that you include the sign that's in front of it. So this is going to give me -2x plus 14. Now, we end up with a positive 14 right here because this was a negative times a negative. That's why it's important that you include that sign, because if you don't, then that number's off. And then lastly, we just need to add this 2. And my slope intercept form is y equals -2x plus 16. So, I cannot say it enough. Point slope form is used when you're trying to figure out what the equation looks like and you do not have the y-intercept. All right, the last thing that I'm going to look at is this error analysis question right here. It says, describe and correct the error in writing the equation of the line that passes through the points 1, 2, and 4, 3. So just by a quick glance, I can tell that this person used the slope formula, so I'll need to double check that things are in their right places, and then they plugged it into point slope form. This is what point slope looks like. So first thing we need to check is that they originally plugged into the slope formula correctly. So label x1, y1, x2, y2, and then check. That's all there is to it. So remember, slope formula looks like this. And I love color coding things, so that's what I'm going to do. The top should have been 3 minus 2. It is. And it even simplified to be a 1, so that's in good shape. And then the bottom is going to be a 4 minus 1. Which again, 4 minus 1, that is a 3, so this slope part is good. That's not the part where it got messed up. Now, what I want you guys to know, this is our point slope form. We already have our slope, so that's going to be where the M is, which that's good. This x1, y1 comes from the ordered pair, and we already have it labeled, so we're going to use that. So it says y minus y1, which was 2, that's fine, equals 1/3. And then on the inside, it's x minus x1. Well, x1 is 1, and they have a 4 right here. So the fix is we can just circle that 4 and say this should be a 1. That should be a 1. That's a pretty common mistake that we see. Kids get the ordered pairs mixed up. Just be vigilant, check where the numbers are, and make sure that you're labeled the numbers, so that way it's easier for you to check to make sure that they actually go in the right spots. All right, very good. Now listen, I'm obviously not at school, so I need you to listen to me very carefully. The practice assignment that is about to be given out, you are more than welcome to use your notes. You guys are sitting in seating arrangement. Make sure that you use your notes. You can ask the people near you for help if you need it. And then when I get back to school, we'll make sure that we're all decent with point slope formula. All right. Oh, and the practice assignment will be taken up, so make sure that you do it, and then we're going to turn it in at the end of class. All right. Bye.